Hear ye, hear me! With the arrival of Season 2 of Suitor, me being an empath, I wanted to talk about Season 1 and its entirety in this video. I'll be taking a look at Season 1 and separate everything into my own arcs, special moments, and set focuses. Because this idea was mostly used on TV shows, I thought the best thing I could do for a comic is to separate the parts and then rank them how I see fit, from where the art style peaked, character development, and climax and rising action, stuff like that. Spoiler warning, I'm going over all of Season 1. All of it, so I may leave out like a few pieces of information accidentally because I'm an idiot, it's inevitable, and I'll be slowly discussing the character's developments and more of my thoughts as it goes on, but let's just get into it! Introduction. The first 4 chapters were introduced to Lucia being picked up by King Goldborn, and introduced to his daughter Kirisi, who's spoiled beyond anything. It is said to be in need of a lady-in-waiting by a maid, so it's decided, and Kirisi doesn't really feel her, but she's open to it. Her character is very fascinating. We zoom into the future where they are older. We learn Lucia is more caring and Kirisi has more problems. Lucia convinces Kirisi to get up, and they go to a competition, and Lucia and Kirisi meet Raymond. Sir Barnyard is competing for the title of champion until Nork shows up. Here where we learn Lucia is very desirable in the first few episodes. Lucia literally gets hit on by like everybody, but Norks comes in with an invention of armor that is alive and fights. Barnyard gets his ass handed to and is pretty much almost dead until his boyfriend, Paris, y'all know me. I indulge gay shit like water. This suit of armor wins and is crowned champion, and now has to bestow favor in a room full of bitches that are scared for their life. This armor presents the rose to Lucia only, and we now know this is the main love interest. Norks tries to make moves on Lucia, but all she can think about is this armor. A random fairy pops in within the last few panels, and this is where I think we move on into the next arc. So far, Lucia is kind, caring, and just pretty much pulls without trying. Kirisi is still stuck up and only seems to care for herself, but like kinda doesn't, and Norks is in love after kissing Lucia's literal hand. Fairy attack on the castle. My titles of these arcs suck, I know, but who gives a f? In this portion, we see more of Lucia stepping out of her comfort zone and meeting people just like her. We see Sir Barnyard with Paris as Lucia takes a visit to bring him flowers, and these two are fighting and Barnyard is basically a wreck. And this is when the fairy we saw earlier, Quinn, decides to make their attack. They have an opportunity to go after Lucia, but thankfully since she has more of a casual and less important look, they move on to a guard and then they make their moves. But before this alerts the cast, Lucia visits Norks and we learn he is as antisocial as he is taking a hint. I mean, it's pretty obvious she's more interested in the armor in this section. She literally gives the armor a name, constantly staring at him. Lucia begins to speak to the armor in conversation like kind of like one-sided. It's cute, but then it's funny, but then it's cute, but then it's funny. But the armor is just like staring. But you know, the staring is more warmer and inviting this time and not like cold, you know? Lucia begins to start learning about magic and how it's only used for entertainment and helping only if you're licensed through Norks. Norks makes adjustment to the armor and tells Lucia more, even going into necromancy until boom. Guards alert, they're under attack by a fairy. Norks locks Lucia with Modius for protection, but Lucia wants to see the fairy and learns to basically walk through walls in the castle. Dull moment. Lucia is having a self-conflicting moment trying to understand what's wrong with the fairies and why everyone hates them. And just by her luck, the fairy that infiltrated the castle swoops into her at knife point. As Lucia tries to offer the fairy help as she's like a swipe away from death, Quinn realizes something different from her, and Modius goes bonkers, almost killing Quinn until Lucia asks him not to, and the guards put Quinn under arrest. And Norks questions how Lucia was able to get out. But then Kirisi kind of comes in. She kind of annoys me at this moment, I don't know, but because of her words, this is where like Modius becomes Lucia's guard though. Like, I hate her, but like this moment, you know what, maybe you aren't so bad. This is where Modius becomes Lucia's guard, but she, you know, just keeps watching. She complains and, you know, Lucia learns more about how humans just absolutely hate fairies for whatever reason. Might I mention, Lucia is a fairy? Nobody just knows. But as soon as we transition to the next arc, we see Lucia is thinking about Modius in a more romantic way, but picks up Quinn's companion after being attacked by birds. She fixes her up and lets her leave for a second, but locks her up in fear of information being spread, and wants to pick the brain of them to understand fairies and the hatred against them. I feel awful for this character throughout because she's just wanted to be with Quinn and live her life. She gets trapped and is forced to accept Quinn may die and has to stick to Lucia by the force of magic. But that's in like the next 2 arcs, you know. Lucia now has more knowledge and even becomes more of a risky person from this point on. She goes from being scared to let anybody touch her hair to possibly feel the ears to literally begging a fairy to help them when guards are near them, and Kirisi is still Kirisi. Modius and Lucia bonding. This arc to me was a really calm one where really we're just exploring Lucia and Modius's bond, and Modius actually begins to speak. It's still very significant and we get really cute moments. Lucia decides to take Modius on a picnic and learns, well, an armor can't eat food. Ain't this funny? Lucia starts talking about the past and wondering what her original parents were like and why they named her Lucia. Within the following panels, Modius begins to slowly speak. Within the following chapters, we learn it wasn't intentional for him to speak and that Norks doesn't know about this. But nevertheless, Lucia is super excited and is okay with keeping this secret if Modius is okay with it as well. And then my favorite part comes up where we see, oh, Sir Barnyard and Quinn. Lucia and Modius were going around and they find them. Girl, they start making out and they get caught by Lucia. Because of the time they're in, you know, being gay isn't accepted. Like, you know, you may be stoned, I don't know. The point is, Quinn and Barnyard start freaking out and begs for them to keep it secret. But Lucia is an excellent character and an LGBTQ activist. She rests assured that they're safe and has a heart-to-heart. And as her original father was killed for being who they were, you know, she's a fairy, you know, she's not accepted. So she feels like they're in the same boots, technically. She wants them to feel safe and then just be all around comfortable, but then they learn Modius can talk. Boom, a secret for a secret. Barnyard challenges Modius to a duel for some reason because his ego is bigger than Modius, but as the arc comes to a close, Norks comes to find them in the same place. He pulled Lucia aside and basically he says that he talked to the king to see if she could be an apprentice with learning magic. I do think he had other intentions, just like Raymond said, to get to her to become a student, and as Lucia is a little hesitant, she accepts. Personally, Norks is adorable to me. I just feel bad because we already know Lucia's in love with Modius. See, they ain't do much, but we know they're in love. And we see him making all of these efforts to do this. Like, he wants to get so close to her, open up his world, and yeah. We also get a cute moment of Barnyard being unable to keep a secret, but now we transition to the next arc. Lucia is now more open to learning magic and is even more in love with Modius and is like open to like changes, and +1 for gays. Modius can speak and is even more expressive than before when he couldn't talk. Interestingly, I wonder if her fairy wings and stuff like that may have had something to do with that. Who knows? Lucia learns magic. So you're gonna think this is probably weird, and I'll probably make more sense of this by the ranking section, but I really do enjoy Lucia's development outside of her relationships. Yes, I know this story is mostly made for like romance between these two, but like I really thoroughly enjoy her development on her own. I don't know why. Something about her being a strong woman and risking like independent for the most part. So for this next arc, Lucia learns more about magic and spends more time with Norks. Lucia and Kirisi get into an argument after Lucia explains she'll be Norks' apprentice. Kirisi, after all, she thinks the world revolves around her and thinks because she won't be around her, she's gonna try and talk her out of it. But Lucia rests assured that they can still be friends and be around each other even outside of royal duties. She also goes off. I like that moment, yeah. The thing about Kirisi is like, as she slightly develops, it's like she takes 1 step forward, 10 episodes later, it's like 2 steps back. If someone goes off on her about something, how she's been treating them, she'll act like she understands and maybe won't apply it for that moment, like there and a little on. But then she'll turn around and tell a poor person, hey, you sleep in a king-size bed? Ha, humble beginnings. Like, later, Lucia goes to the library to see if she can find any more information on fairies, and we get a cute moment with Modius and him trying not to, you know, destroy. And then we move on to Lucia learning magic, but we gain insight that Kirisi's father knew Lucia was a fairy and tried to make sure to hide it when she was sick. But after that, Kirisi gives Lucia a present. It's slightly condescending, I mean, I guess slightly helpful by her case, but you know, it's cute. She gave her a cute mage outfit. Her words, not mine. Many of the subsequent chapters are really funny, seeing Norks try his hardest not to like gush over Lucia. He gives her a headband that's supposed to help her control magic, and now he's teaching her at her pace. We get to learn Norks had a hard life growing up. His mother was a mage, and pretty much she did what she had to do so her child could survive in the new world. But unfortunately, his mother did pass away, and this was when he became an apprentice. I kind of want to see if it's possible to like maybe have like her own little like backstory. I kind of want to see what happened to her because she looked like she had an interesting life. I don't know, it's cool. But the next arc is where we get more attention on Quinn and his companion. Lucia wants more information and is using Laz to get some information out of Quinn. Lucia meeting the fairy that broke into the castle. Now this part is so fucked up to me, and how Laz's personality is like literally assimilated, and just the scary thing about magic and how I feel for this character. But Lucia agrees to bring Lazuli to Quinn for more information. She sneaks around the castle and we see she's quick with learning magic and blase blase. She sneaks through, waiting for guards to leave to be able to talk to Quinn, and this part really scared the shit out of me because like the guards were like gone for like a really long ass time. I don't know, that's just me. Like no one else heard her this whole part. Like I refuse to believe something would be that easy. She speaks to Quinn after the guards leave, and after some catching up, up. He asks what faction she's in, and she reveals to him she's a lady in waiting, and his reaction is like, wow, are you absolutely crazy? Like, you live with the humans? And he realizes how out of touch she is with everything, and I think in the upcoming parts, I feel like Quinn may have known how she would have reacted to meeting V, and maybe would have just shaken her up. I don't think what he does, she was gonna go through with it, but she was definitely gonna be shooken up. But Quinn claims fairies look out for each other, and Lucia brings Lazuli, and she doesn't give her directly, but just shows her and then wants information. He mentions telling the 100-year war between fairies and humans. She thinks the war is over, but he tells her just because it ended on paper doesn't mean it's really over. He says he's not the best person to get information on the war and everything, and kind of jokes about what his perspective is from humans. And he recommends somebody to help her, V. She has to go through the black market, and then Quinn asks Lucia whether she will let Lazuli go. Lucia says no because the birds almost ripped her to shreds. He thinks she'll be safe with Lucia, and this is where Lazuli starts to freak out. And this is where he passes her on to her with this like ritual thing, and Lazuli's just like different. You know, she's fighting because she wants to be with Quinn, but after that, she's just silent. When she's about to leave, Quinn lets her know that she should stay away from Modius because she doesn't know about Modius and is supposed to kill fairies. It was made to destroy them, so the fact she's even like near Modius is like insane. And this sends Lucia into a shock and complete sorrow. And when she returns, well, guess who's there? Modius! Oh my god! Scared for her life. She slowly asks what he was made to do, and I'm assuming she was hoping for a different answer. I don't know why, but he gives her the answer that shows extremely dark panels, but Modius says he doesn't understand what killing is. Like, he says he's supposed to kill fairies, but he doesn't, and it's just like really awkward. Lucia's like on pilot mode and just tells him to leave while she's just like gliding around the room, and it's so awkward.
I've fallen in love with a human, and I'm only armor. I was created to destroy. My name is Modius. I'm nothing but armor, empty. Cold shell until I met Lucia.
Hunting trip. Okay, this one is a bit more peaceful for everybody but Lucia. Kirisi is complaining to Lucia that she has to go on a trip, and Lucia ends up going on this trip with Kirisi and Raymond. And to kind of speed through this arc, Kirisi ends up really getting comfortable with Raymond. This trip elevates everyone's relationship and development pretty much. Kirisi opens up to Raymond and her past and problems with Lucia as if she can't talk to herself and blase. I don't care for this couple. I mean, they have good chemistry and I respect it, but I really don't give a fuck. I don't know, maybe it's just me. The most important part of this is where everyone's gathered up together. It's like it's very peaceful until Raymond asks Norks to entertain and include Lucia. He casts fireworks and wants Lucia to do something. This part is kind of crucial to her backstory, but she tries doing something, but her magic goes out of control. A giant flame emerges and there's a figure telling her to run. She passes out and Modius holds her. Everyone's kind of like then freaking out and then stops paying her mind and just call it a night, which was like really weird to me. Like, wow, like y'all don't f with her like that, especially Kirisi. I don't know. Kirisi just be rubbing me the wrong way. Like, she's the type of bitch to be like, oh, I'm your best friend, and then talk shit about you. Like, what? Anyways, Lucia is giving Modius his jacket, and it's just like a cute moment overall, but then right when we get something cute, we get into something really dark. By the following episode, she's told to run once again, as these disturbing eyeless elves say to her to run, and it's in a dark forest. This occurs later on, and it has me wondering if she has like rediscovered her memories in like a slow way, or like maybe she been had them, and she just sees things differently. The more she gets like information, she just processes shit differently. And she asks Lazuli after she wakes up to go on a separate little trip, and this is where we head into the next arc. But Modius is also looking for her, and this next part is kind of a huge moment for their relationship. Modius learns Lucia is a fairy. So Lucia, needing a break from everything, goes on a bit of a detour to a fairy ruins before the war ended. And this is really just a moment where she can just relax, let her wings out. She even puts a barrier to ensure that no one can see her, until one major problem. Modius walks in, yay! We're gonna ignore the fact she's pretty much skinny dipping and just focus on the fact that Modius realizes she's a fairy. Yeah. He's too stunned to say, and this is such a beautiful moment with Modius and Lucia because they're both very vulnerable right now in a way. I'm not sure Lucia was ready to necessarily open up, but I'm sure Modius might be, because he's just like, I missed you, I need you, like I want you in this moment, you know, like. But she asks Modius, you know, will you kill me because, you know, I'm a fairy? Modius asks, do you want me to? I would sure hope the fuck you wouldn't. We didn't go through all this shit just for you to do that. What the fuck? Modius is like, are you scared? I don't want you to be afraid. Anyways, Lucia opens up, letting him know Goldborn is the only one who knows, not even Kirisi. It's a cute moment because Modius rest assures he won't tell anybody, and this is how we know they are genuinely like in love. Ring the bells. As they kind of move on, they find a deer leader. Lucia learns this is a fairy that was transformed into a deer. The ex-fairy freaks out seeing Modius because it thinks it's supposed to kill it. They even bond on by touching heads, and it shares feelings until a flying arrow comes out of nowhere, killing the deer. Modius freaks out, almost kills the person who did it. I forgot the guard's name, but he was annoying, and I don't really care to know for him. See, it's one thing for me to make an effort to know and hate somebody, but when I really don't give a I don't, like, you. It's at this moment Modius's childlike moments really shine. Like, through most of the comic, like, he's presumably, like, moves like a child technically, but the rage, that's the next level. You know, it's still like kind of in a way sweet and innocent, even though he like almost killed him, but you know, it's whatever. Next arc. Oh, this one, the castle's reacting to Modius talking. So pretty much shit is kind of like hitting the fan for Modius and everything. So everything is kind of like slowly not being in his favor. This part is kind of short too for me, but it's important to know how Norx is just violently reacting after talking about this with Raymond. Lucia is trying to convince them to let Modius decide like he's his own person, and Norx has this like control freak moment. It's really confusing to me if he's upset that Lucia cares for Modius more than him, or he's just like scared or just like a general control freak. I don't know. Raymond brings Modius into their area and asks Modius if he would still like to stay and protect Lucia, and Modius says yes. Norx starts going off on Lucia because she didn't tell Modius he talked. He kind of really oversteps in my opinion. I don't know. He looked like he was kind of gonna get violent. In the last panel of that one episode, he literally was balling his fist in anger. I don't know. That says a lot. Lucia meets Elf Wing Remover. Yes. So this part is kind of scary, but also one of my favorite moments, technically a spoiler for the list, because this is where Lucia's world kind of changes around her. Like, she knew stuff was wrong with humans and fairies being against each other, but there's like way more insight now, and it's really gruesome. Lucia changes her appearance, shrinks her ears, and heads out into the city for the first time. She sees the lives of the elves and finally reaches their destination. She asks around looking for V and finally finds where he usually is in. And what she sees in this area is absolutely horrifying. A bunch of wings from fairies hung up like drying meat. And she meets V in a weird way. He sneaks up on her and there's a little tussle, but she shows him her hand and he calms down. In this episode, V really explains how kind of like shielded she is because she doesn't know why she's here, and tells her to be like somewhat calm because the whole thing she doesn't know about elves, which essentially is that they were fairies at one point, but they had their wings removed by humans. And tells the story of how humans and fairies were at an agreement at one point, and humans went and decided to be sneaky and pretty much betrayed them and just took over and attacked them. So now Lucia's learning this and her world just crashes down. He offers her surgery to get her wings removed, and she's just sitting there pondering everything, just wondering what she wants to do now. And then a lady walks in with her child to get their wings removed, and she just starts crying and storms out. She beats herself up for not being able to do anything and just not knowing anything in general over time, and just freaks out. Modius tries to calm her down, telling her what we do from this moment is more important than the past. And this is where we transition to the next arc. Confrontation with Raikon, just in time with where things were kind of going to shit. So let's just make it even worse. I know, right? Shit comes to your door like FedEx. I hate this old decrepit bitch. So Lucia returns to the castle with Kirisi, and things go kind of just south. Her in-law has arrived. Raikon, I presume, is the main villain of this story. We're introduced to him 40-some episodes in. Raikon doesn't come in casually. He comes in with a reason just to make the room uncomfortable. What happened to Hai? Hello? Why are we bringing elves in chains? Like, where's your decorum, bitch? Lucia is in complete fear and in shock. This man stands tall with a steel-like arm, and to be entirely fair, I think he knows her tea. I feel like he does. I don't have any proof. It's just a hunch, you know? Because you don't ask to see somebody's ears and then just casually be like, oh, okay, like, with a grin and then give up. Like, and then he grins with like, oh, I know more than you think. You can hide your shit, but bitch, not for long. I know I'm not crazy, right? Like, I know I've shouted about two fishes fucking for a couple minutes, but I still have some sanity left in me. He's telling everybody that he's attending the wedding for sure and is being caught up with events, and even with Modius and even Lucia being an apprentice under Norx. Norx compliments her and he keeps blushing when she literally just looks at him. Like, it's really embarrassing now. Like, you can stop, no shade. By the end of episode 42, this is where he checks for her ears as the one request. Luckily, because she shrank her ears, she got away with it. By the way, she's quick to insult him when he mentions his elf slaves. Lucia and Modius takes a visit later at night to Barnyard and his boyfriend and talk about Raikon. And we learn that he's definitely, you know, a threat. I'm not saying Modius could beat him necessarily. I mean, I don't think Modius can. I mean, he almost got, I thought he would have got his ass whooped with V. But, you know, I don't think he can do much to Raikon. I don't know. Something about him just screams like, I'm way more powerful than you think, you know? And now we transition to the last arc of season 1. Yes, the ball! Now this part, girl, this was a confusing cliffhanger and a way to go. For those who already read it, basically Lucia stormed out the ball and like passed out and woke up to being literally around flames. I don't know if y'all have seen season 2 just yet, but there is like some really deep burns and shit. Like the creator went like crazy for like the gore and shit in season 2. So like that, I don't know, that's a crazy way to start. This is the last ball before Kirisi is supposed to become a queen. What really happens in this arc, Kirisi just kind of nitpick at Modius even at the ball, and boom, the ball comes. Kirisi comes down looking gorgeous, but Lucia comes down looking even more gorgeous-er. And Norx is just watering at the mouth, barking for this girl. At this point, even Kirisi can see right through Norx, and it's so funny. Norx and Lucia have a dance, and she's just full on worried, and even notices the slaves kind of just being there, like brought in, just sitting there. And it just gets so much better because guess who wants to dance with her now? Oh, Raikon. Oh my god, I want to jump. It's like my family's gonna miss me, but like, I don't know, that jump sounds kind of worth it. Oh. We learned basically in this dance from their conversation, we learned this geezer lost his arm for a reason I don't care so much for. I wish it would have happened again, would have taken his whole body instead of the arm, but hey, that's just my opinion. But hey, I'm gonna get considered mean for stating my negative opinion on a character meant to cause problems, so let me shut the up. Lucia goes to meet Modius, and after this, it is a very cute moment together, and I really recommend y'all reading this part because everything coordinated so beautifully. They were quite literally about to kiss, which is really weird because like, how the fuck are they gonna kiss? Like, there's like an open slot inside of Modius' mouth. Like, we'll figure it out when we get there. I don't know. But something happens prior to Sir Barnyard, and I love my babies. I love them. However, the guy that did shoot an arrow at the fairy turned deer and Modius almost killed is kind of staring at them in a negative way. I think he started looking for them because he's catching on to like how close they are. I personally want his head on a platter. Now, if season 2 does something with this, I'm gonna be like really tuning the in. Like, if one of these two die, I'm gonna be really upset. No shade. Like, so, but instead, he walks in on Modius and Lucia about to kiss, and now he's trying to embarrass them. Bitch, do you not have a yellow belt in karate, bitch? I will put an extra dent in your nose, bitch. Don't play with me. Kirisi starts going off at the mouth because her opinion is just so important at this moment, and demands Modius is no longer with her because Kirisi's not happy and can't be with someone she's in love with. Well, shit. You know, fucking her best friend can't, quote unquote. Even Raymond has to agree with Kirisi when Lucia's asked for him to say no. Bitch, for somebody who wanted to hold a friendship after this damn wedding, you're sure doing a lousy ass job. Cause at this point, after everything's done, she's not going to fuck with you. You're gonna have to pick up the pieces yourself. And when she's alone, she's gonna realize how fucked up she is. And that's really when she's gonna break through with the character development. Like I said, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. This scene pisses me the fuck off because Lucia runs off crying, and this is where things get really confusing. She's really emotional, her wings come out in private, and she passes out. Next thing you know, Quinn is getting killed by Sir Wrinkles a lot. The area she's around is on fire. She wakes up, blacks back out, and she breaks her ties with Lazuli to make sure Lazuli gets out okay and just says like, fuck it, I'm ready to go. Like, really? And then we get like panels insinuating possibly that everyone's getting told that there's a fire. That's how it closes. Yeah. What a cliffhanger. I know. I must say that ending was something. Kirisi, just as I thought, still a bitch, a strange one. And now we can kind of get into the ranking session. This goes practically by what I thought kind of kept me the most on edge, what I thought may have been like the most romantic, just all around my favorite shit. So here we go. The castle reacting to Modius talking, Lucia learning magic, Lucia meets the elf wing remover, confrontation with Raikon, Modius and Lucia bonding. As you can tell, there's a little common denominator with these few first. Obviously, I'm a little interested in more so of like Lucia's development and kind of more the action portion. I don't know, that's just me. I know the main thing is supposed to be romance, but like it's really cool. The story is really versatile enough to like really keep the action portions and shit like that just as interesting for me. I also think like the art really peaks with those because they show kind of more like the darker side, kind of like the more emotional. I think they really handled that well. The ball, Modius learning Lucia as a fairy, the introduction, fairy attacking the castle, the hunting trip. I think a lot of what I really enjoyed was seeing the pair that's like the pair built to not be around each other and go against each other end up coming together. The crazy thing is why a piece of armor is making more progress to make unity than humans is just like there. I don't know, that's crazy. One thing I noticed about the art style, it was consistent. There wasn't any flaws. The color and the shading was great. I think as things got more intense for Lucia and we really saw how dramatic the style got, I think that's really what kind of was like, okay, this is really the shit. And that's what really peaked for me in season 1. I think the best development did come from Lucia, even though it wasn't too much. Well, it was a lot. Yeah, I'm just a dumbass. To be quite honest, and a lot of the other characters, not really much changed besides Modius, and I mean Quinn did die die, but you know, I don't think that really changes their person. They're just in the grave now. That's not funny. Because Lucy is the only one who really stepped out of her shell, and I thought that was the most captivating. They did an alright job at introducing the characters, but I like the confrontation and I really like the drama. I like peace, but I like to feel my seat wanting to like beat me up, you know? Like I like sitting in my seat, but I want to feel like I'm gonna get jumped, you know? I need something happening. But if you have any questions, I can clarify in the comments, and this was fun. Also, please check out season 2 of Suitor Armor. It just came out, and you can click the link in my description, like now. Thank you. Open it in the next tab or something. And then if you want to, you can leave a like, subscribe, share the video, check out my previous video, all this stuff. Follow me everywhere and all that good jig. And I'll see you guys out. Peace.